Hello, I'm Jerry Champlin, President of the League of Women Voters, Comal area. The League is a nonpartisan, nonprofit 501c3 that never supports or opposes any candidate or political party. Our mission is to empower voters and defend democracy. Part of that mission is to provide information about topics and issues of concern to voters. A topic of growing concern in our area is water. And we're very pleased tonight to kick off Earth Week with the program Headwaters, Where It Begins, a new approach to water conservation with Nancy Pappas, the Managing Director of Headwaters at the Comal. Nancy?
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you all for having me this evening. I've come up with kind of a new spin on our Headwaters presentation. So for those of you who have seen it a few times, I hope you'll learn something new about this really exciting project. As Jerry said, I'm Nancy Pappas. I'm the Managing Director for the Headwaters at the Comal. Oops, sorry, let me get on my screen here. There we go. For those of you that don't know, the Headwaters at the Comal is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that was established in 2017 to partner with New Braunfels Utilities on a 16-acre site that they were repurposing at the very beginning of the Comal River. Our mission is to strengthen the relationship between the community and nature by showcasing the significance of the Comal Springs. And for those of you that don't know, the Comal Springs are incredibly significant. They are the most significant springs in the American Southwest. They're part of the network of springs that are recently being, the name is even coming up more, the Great Springs of Texas. So that includes San Antonio Springs, the Comal Springs, San Marcos Springs, and Barton Springs in Austin. And of those springs, the Comal Springs has the highest spring flow consistently and has flowed through thousands of years of history as we've learned at the Headwaters. And I'll share more about that in a minute. Our vision is then to take this site and become a premier education center, inspiring hearts and minds on the importance of conservation to community. And by conservation, we mean water, habitat, our natural environment, beautiful natural environment here in Texas, and also conservation of cultural resources, which we have in abundance here at this site as well. And community is really a large C community. It means not just New Braunfels, but the greater region, and we hope to have a national reach eventually. So this is an overhead shot of the project site back when it was outgrown by New Braunfels Utilities. This picture is probably from about 2012. It shows the top of your screen. You can see the arrow up here, Eden Hill, and this is Lakeview Boulevard, if you can see my cursor moving along the screen, and then Klingemann here. So this 16-acre site includes this area on the left-hand side with the Comal Headwaters right here, and then also another strip over here. You can see it's covered in asphalt and impervious cover. We're at the very bottom of the Balcones Escarpment in a watershed area, and obviously, a real impact to the Comal River there. It does have a working water plant, and as I briefly mentioned, was a New Braunfels Utilities warehouse, fleet and facilities property, office space. They outgrew the site in 2014 and moved up to the 306 site that they currently operate there, those same facilities and warehouse and electric and water operations up there. So the site sat vacant for a number of years until they deemed in, they moved out of the site in 2004, and a plan was created to repurpose this site in 2012 through 2014. And this is the vision for that site. So really completely changing this site and making it this environmental showcase. And we're going to talk a lot about that as we move through here. So the Headwaters at the Comal nonprofit, as I said, started in 2017, and we got to work. We are working on programs and operations of this site as it evolves. We're a fundraising partner for New Braunfels Utilities to see that master plan come to fruition, as well as we've developed kind of 4 pillars of work that we really focus in on at the Headwaters. The first one is educate and demonstrate. So this site is just rich for all kinds of educational experiences. Currently, we are offering watershed education programs, science, engineering, art, and math programs for younger kids. We've developed some restoration tours, native landscaping 101. We have field trips for kind of 4th to 6th graders, and always, continuing to develop more programs on this site. You can find out more about those on our website, and we invite you to come and join in one of those programs. Another one of our key pillars is to partner in research, and we are really working to facilitate research that allows for the discovery of this new site with a really deep history to it, and then connect what we're learning there with regional science. Some of the pictures that you can see on the screen include the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that came out with some of our endangered species that live in this spring system to share with the community. The little graphic in the middle refers back to our archaeological excavation. As I mentioned, this site has a long history with people. We've found artifacts on this site that date, 8 to 10,000 years. And we'll look forward to displaying those and incorporating that story on the site. And then we're also partnering in research around different types of surfaces and ways that we can build better in this community. And then our third pillar here is to create community. And one of our things that we're really enjoying doing is just providing a nature-oriented gathering and meeting space that builds this regional ethic of better understanding and valuing the incredible cultural and ecological resources we have here in Comal County and in New Braunfels. And so even with the work that we've done to date, we've really become a beacon for people to meet during COVID. We were very proud to be able to offer kind of safe outdoor meeting space for people as we were still getting comfortable with the COVID protocols. But the reason that I'm here tonight, jumped ahead, but some of the things that we do that helped create community is a evening of lights that we do in December, where we light the spring run path in little candlelit sacks. Lovely evening. We have a great volunteer community that comes out and really provides a great service to us, but also just creates a really welcoming and fun place to work and be, and we hope provides a great outlet for these amazing volunteers. And this Saturday, we do have our Earth Day, which is our 4th annual Earth Day. Typically, we see about 400 people. You're still welcome to register online. You don't have to register, but we're just trying to space out the crowd so you can see when some of the better times to come are, but you're welcome to just show up too if you're driving by. It's from 10 to 2, and again, it's this Saturday. And so what I'm really here to talk tonight about is one of our really important pillars as well, and that's protecting and conserving. And so how do we, in this explosive growth that we're seeing in this community, how do we ensure the protection and conservation of these most significant Comal Springs and the Comal River system, and protect those endangered species that are there, and really, more importantly, our quality of life? And so at the Headwaters, we have begun that work on educating and demonstrating around that. We have a lot more to go, but I wanted to walk through kind of some of the areas where we've already made significant improvements, and then we'll talk about the future plans for the site. You can see from these photos here, this is actually a shot of the Headwaters Springs up in the top left, just after the phase of restoration began. And then the picture on the bottom is what it looks like currently. So we really cleaned up the area around the springs, these rock walls. I don't know if you can tell that they're rock, but this curved wall, and the ones along the bank here are called gabion walls. And so they're kind of helping to divert water away from that headwater spring and also slow it down, filter it before it reaches it. And one more piece of the protection and conservation has been to partner with New Braunfels Utilities on the One Water work that they're doing. And I just wanted to briefly mention this. I know there have been some talks. The Comal County Conservation Alliance had a great talk by Jennifer Walker recently on One Water. One Water is, it's not new. It's not a new term. It's a worldwide effort. Texas has recently really become a thought leader in kind of One Water, and New Braunfels is looking to be its own leader in this effort, kind of a regional leader. And all One Water really means is to plan for and manage water resources more holistically and sustainably. Currently, water is really sideload in Texas. You know, somebody owns it, somebody manages it, somebody regulates it. An entity does wastewater, somebody else might do stormwater capture, somebody else delivers water to your home. So there's all these different aspects to it. And how can we work together instead to manage that more holistically? It's also looking at water and protecting water resources in a way that maximizes both environmental, social, and economic benefits. Of course, water is a celebrated feature here in New Braunfels. And so how do we celebrate that and maintain that? And always providing sustainable, high quality water and ensuring the health of our watersheds and groundwater resources and waterways. And so again, Headwaters will demonstrate a number of those One Water concepts, and that's what we're going to get into more here. So a lot of the work at the beginning of envisioning what we could do with this asphalt covered parking lot was creating some habitat restoration zones. So when this project came to be, there was a stakeholder group that got together, and they were led by Lake Plato architects, Tenike landscape architects, and also the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center's ecological restoration team. And so they wanted to really look at what this site could have looked like 200 years ago. And also, what are we losing in Texas currently from this incredible growth and development? And so really just focusing in on a couple of different ecotones. We have kind of a mid-grass prairie, savanna prairie, very important ecosystems to South Central Texas, even upland xeric, so that much more dry, arid areas. Of course, the riparian area around the spring run was important, and then a riparian woodland area too. And so that is another one of the key education and demonstration on the habitat side that we'll be showcasing at the Headwaters are these 4 main ecotones. And then within that, we'll have some demonstration gardens trying to show, well, you may not be able to plant a whole prairie ecosystem in your backyard. How can you incorporate little pieces of that to help protect and conserve our native creatures, birds, bees, butterflies, other pollinators, and incorporate small pieces of that in your yard. And so we'll focus a lot on that work. And then, of course, the main goal of the first phase of the project was to reduce the pollutant load on the Comal Springs. So if you remember a few slides back, I showed the asphalt covered parking lot that we're at the very bottom of the Balcones escarpment in this watershed area. And so in a normal rainfall year, they could estimate that the water that would rush across that property completely unchecked and carrying with it then animal waste, oils, debris from both the utility yard and upstream of that would have been around 11,850 pounds. That's equal to the weight of 2 Ford F-250s, right? So that amount of pollutants would wash into the very beginning of the Comal River on a normal rainfall year. That's not big during one of our big rain event years, which are becoming less frequent, but still a huge pollutant load on the river. And so at its very headwaters. And so the main goal of the project was to reduce that load. And post restoration, the improvements should get that down to less than 1,000 pounds. So it's like a 90% improvement to the pollutants that wind up in the Comal River. And we're going to do that through a number of different measures that then we can monitor and share with the community. So this picture gives a little bit, if you look closely, it's not, the colors aren't very vibrant, but this top part here again, you can see the greenery in here now. There's some trails and removal of asphalt in this whole area. So that's what we're talking about. That's kind of an overhead view and the beginning of our work here to remove those pollutants from that Comal headwaters spot. And so we're doing that, or we started that with a best BMPs or best management practices and an actual kind of a treatment train. So water now flows across this property, and here we're up at the top of, can you all see my clicker or my cursor when it's moving very much at all? I don't know. I'll just keep talking and hope that people can see it. So this is up at Lakeview Boulevard again. And so this would have been all on improved area. And now the water comes flowing across this property and lands here first in this little vernal pool here, a little biodetention pond. It runs through swales, bioswales, and a little channel that then takes it to this larger here in the middle, another kind of biodetention pond, an opportunity for that water to soak in and be treated through the native grasses and plants. And finally, there's another constructed wetland here at the end, which will do kind of a final treatment on that water. So the water, instead of just rushing unchecked, has all these opportunities to not only stop and slow down and be absorbed by the native grasses and plants that have been installed here at the headwaters, which remove those pollutants from them, but they're creating this incredible habitat for the native species in the area. So I'll go into that a little bit more. So again, here is another view from inside the property looking towards Lakeview Boulevard. And these two blue arrows are pointing both at this light pole on both pictures. And you can see the change of this flat, unimproved, asphalt covered parking area to this incredible green, lush landscape. Whoops, my slides keep popping up on me. And the features that I mentioned before, the first little vernal pool is back here and the edge here, and then the water will flow through this swale that runs along here and will wind up at that other big pool. So, a beautiful way to stop, to channel stormwater. First of all, we're not having to use a concrete sluice of some kind, but we're installing this beautiful green prairie, providing a number of different purposes that ultimately help to keep water on site, give it to wildlife, polish it and cleanse it before it ever gets back to our Comal Springs. Another view from another angle, and this is kind of one more step in the process, showing again this bioswale up at the top when it had just been installed, and then the lower picture a few years later. These bioswales can actually remove like 200 pounds of TSS, which are total suspended solids or pollutants, and they reduce the runoff by 1/3 of an acre foot. You know, here's that spring cap again, just a horrible picture on the top of, you know, obviously this one was a little bit impacted because of the construction on site, and we were just at the beginning of the project when we got this big rainstorm. But just this unimproved area, that is really what the Comal Springs, the water that's in that spring, in that cistern area, looked like before this project started. When you get a big rainfall, it was just gray and dirty and awful. And the bottom picture is what it more often looks like now. It's, you know, just crystal clear, beautiful, clean water. And you can see some of the upstream improvements there looking up towards Lakeview from that picture. Again, just some of the less improved area here. The other feature that this is showing here is this diverter pipe up in the top. And that's a feature that's, you know, not going to be relevant to many other installations, but specifically at the Headwaters here, this is connected to a water treatment tank. And so this water that's on the site is treated potable drinking water that goes out to the community of New Braunfels. And before the project started, if there were any problems with that treated water tank, it used to flush down this area here where that where that gravel is, and just right across this concrete into the spring run. And that's water is treated with chlorine and fluoride, so a terrible you know, impediment to the Comal Springs. And now instead this water is pumped out, or is distributed out through this diverter pipe into a catch basement, which again puts it into that swale system and series of vernal pools and bioretention ponds and constructed wetlands that help to channel and filter that water, so before it gets back to the springs. Another picture just kind of demonstrating again the power of that water and the way it used to rush across unchecked. This area now looks like the picture at the bottom, and from another view. So again, so that was basically phase one. Phase one was really that initial stage in green stormwater infrastructure, bioswales, bioretention ponds, and constructed wetlands that help to channel and filter that water away from the very beginning of the Comal Springs. Our next phase of construction will be to repurpose this main building on site, which we're calling the center at the Headwaters. It will become, like the rendering in the photo at the bottom, an innovative, nature-oriented meeting and gathering space. We'll have education classrooms, exhibit space, a visitor center, lots of open, you know, windows that open up to the restored prairie area, and rain catchment, which we'll get into in a minute, and All Abilities main entrance. So really great place for the community to come and use. And as far as water conservation goes, we will also be starting another phase of a more technical aspect of using water on the site, and that's kind of on-site water reuse. So we'll have a number of large rainwater harvesting catchment containers at the very front of this center at the Headwaters. They will be capturing all the water from this roof off the main building. It's about a 19,000 gallon storage. It will, and we can testify to this from phase one, you know, capture a lot of the water that was running off again, and potentially, you know, in previous years had been impacting the springs, but we'll also be able to start to use that as on-site reuse. So we'll use that for a number of different purposes. Really exciting one that won't be completed till the final phase, but this is the first step of it, is in this kind of on-site reuse system that we have that is part of the main building, and also our building up here, which will be our environmental education center. So the rainwater capture is also, so we have the rainwater capture on the front, and then the restroom facilities in the main part of the building are connected to a black water reuse system. So our toilets will kind of flush, channel into a sand filtration system, be diverted then to these subsurface wetland cells, kind of mixing with rainwater collection. Some of it will be used for irrigation on site. Some of it will be pumped back to reflush those toilets. So really trying to, capture and preserve stormwater that's coming off the building in another way here by using connecting it to this on-site reuse system, really reducing the water use from irrigation, which is one of the biggest, largest uses of potable water currently in the community is from irrigation. And so how can we start to demonstrate other ways of irrigating our lawns? Rainwater is a great option for that. This is a little rendering of our environmental education center here. The white cloths in the middle of this top left photo is part of that rainwater catchment as well. This building will be open air, but those sailcloths will capture dew and condensation. They are a great visual for two things. You can either think of them as clouds or as your karst aquifer system. And so as rain hits our karst aquifer or karst rock formations here in South Central Texas, that water just filters right through it, comes through these rain chains into these constructed wetland cells, and then is part of this larger story about how our water bubbles up through our springs here in Texas. But then also eventually, another fun fact about the Comal Springs, it provides some of the largest freshwater flows to the Gulf of Mexico, lower than the Canyon Lake Dam here. So we will actually have some troughs and channels that run through the site and that wind up in a pool that represents the Gulf of Mexico. So one, educating and demonstrating on kind of these new technologies, black water, on-site reuse with our rainwater harvest catchment, but also visualizing for people how this water system here in Texas is so important all the way to the Gulf of Mexico and for the health of our bays and estuaries. So after we finish the center at the Headwaters, we'll be moving on to the parking area across the street. And that's another great opportunity for removing some real hard packed surface. There's not much asphalt over there, but it is hard packed impervious cover. It has not been maintained. It's used right now as a staging area for some of the construction that's going on in the community. We've received a grant from TCEQ, which will start next year, to help us repurpose that site as well. And it will become another great demonstration area for parking areas in the community. So showing here is some curbside rain gardens. So instead of just having stormwater from a parking area rush off, it instead flows into center channel planting areas that don't need additional irrigation, but instead kind of capture and hold that water with the right plantings in there. Those plants survive and thrive and provide a space for that runoff water instead of just sitting in a parking area to be collected and channeled if necessary, then through a bioswale to get back to the water. We can also demonstrate some different types of permeable parking features. This one shows like a green parking area. There are other surfaces that are more permeable than an asphalt or a concrete. So we may demonstrate one or two different options here. Those all will help again with that runoff to Blighters Creek, actually is where this parking area flows, but that eventually gets to the Comal River. So again, just important in protecting and conserving and making sure that the water that does get to the Comal is clean as possible. So, kind of a side note to the work that we've been doing, we were recently introduced to a team called Ecometrics. They were created because of Hurricane Katrina, actually, and a family that wanted to start to show the value of keeping our wetlands, our forests, the areas upstream and along the coast of Louisiana there, how important they were for the economic benefits of the community. And so Ecometrics has really worked hard to put a financial value on some of the more esoteric things that we're doing in these kind of green projects. So how do we value the social returns on investment of a project like the Headwaters? How do we really show the environmental benefits of what we're doing at the Headwaters? We took the Headwaters project to the New Braunfels Economic Development Corporation recently, and they asked for, what is the impact of your project going to be? And that's how we were connected to Ecometrics. You can see some of the work they've done has been for companies like Citgo and Dow and Shell Oil to help them to be able to contribute more to these environmental projects by showing the return on their investment. And so again, Ecometrics just does this full value creation. They do have a third party independently verify their results. So it is an internationally documented third party audit that's done. So it will really show that, they're just not making up these numbers. They're using real numbers to value the project. We were really thrilled, of course, with the outcome. We interviewed a number of stakeholders, and some of our stakeholders couldn't be interviewed per se, but we look at that. And of course, the environment is one of them. We can see the improved soil formation and stability that the work that we are doing has done, erosion control, stormwater retention, that water quality protection and improvement that we talked about. And then the habitat creation that comes out of doing a project like this. Obviously, two of our key stakeholders are funders like NBU and other large donors that we've had, the community at large, just by this opportunity to engage in the Headwaters in so many different ways. Students who come for educational purposes, and while our value doesn't show really large from them right now because they have to, it's more that research academic side of it. That's number 5. We'll see those numbers continue to grow as we continue to develop the project. The center itself and the work that we're doing as the nonprofit, and of course the people that work there as well. So this report just looked at phase 1 and the potential for phase 2. And we were really conservative in our numbers of what happens when we build the center at the Headwaters, because we don't have any idea and we didn't want to overstate what we were doing. But you can see that just the market value. So just if you look at specific, hard numbers, our return on investment to MBU and our other key donors to date is 30 cents on the dollar. But if you look at the whole social value, from that investment to date on that and the potential in phase 2, you can see that it's over a $3 return on investment for the project. And for this investment that we're having, the total social value is, almost $89 million. So pretty impressive for what we're doing. And we're really confident that these numbers are just going to continue to grow. We're working on kind of a one-pager to pull out some more of the important facts about this project, but we're excited to share it. And we hope that it will help. I mentioned briefly One Water back at the beginning, but as we start to encourage more of this development in the community and green infrastructure for water protection, water quality, water quantity, we hope that reports like this can help show the true benefit of that. And then lastly, I just wanted to finish up with my normal pitch to please get involved and find out more about the project. We have a great newsletter that goes out about once a month. You can find us online at headwaters@thecomal.org. We offer memberships to help support the work that we're doing there. Please come out and attend a program or an event like Earth Day this Saturday. And if you're an MBU customer, MBU has really generously found a way to offer a roundup program. So if your bill is, $1.49, they will round it up to $2, and that little 51 cents in the middle there will go towards the Headwaters. So you would never have more than a monthly contribution of 99 cents, and yearly it would never be more than $1.88. So a great way, if we can collect all of that money, really helps the Headwaters nonprofit with our operations and maintenance. And it's completely voluntary, opt-in. You only have to do it once, but you do have to do it yourself. We can't do it for you, and encourage you to take a look at that. So that's all I have. I know there's only a few of us on here, but if anybody has any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Yeah, I just want to add that it's always inspiring to go out to Headwaters and see what it looks like now, and look at the pictures of what it looked like at the beginning of the project. And I'm glad you had that in the slideshow. It's really good to know that we can repair and restore.
It's very exciting. And Nancy, did you talk about having some sort of a display area where you're going to put the artifacts that you found? Where is that going to be?
Thanks. We are working on that still. We imagine there's a couple of places in the new center at the Headwaters where we will be able to display the artifacts. We are also working on an interpretive plan, so a way to mimic or make replicas of the features that we found on site at the entrance when you walk in. We want people to be greeted when they come to the Headwaters of the understanding that people have been coming to this exact site for thousands of years. And aren't we fortunate that we have the opportunity to enjoy it ourselves? So
it's a great story.
Yeah.
Hi, Roxana.
Yeah. Hi. So what is the timeline for all of this, Nancy?
So thank you for asking that too. With on the EDC, the Economic Development Corporation just awarded the Headwaters $1.2 million towards our phase 2 fundraising, which is the center at the Headwaters and the front entrance. That puts us at 80% of our goal. And we are expecting to be able to start construction. We're a little nervous right now because we're in the crunch time, and prices are so volatile and it's just kind of crazy. But we really feel confident that we will be able to start construction this summer, and we will have another community campaign like our Foundation Builders campaign for phase 1, so people can get involved. If people aren't able to help us at a kind of a $1,000 or more level, we always have these memberships, which are a great way to support the work that we're doing. We'll have some great donor recognition displays and opportunities for people to just come out and enjoy the project. But yes, expecting to break ground this summer.
Great news. Great news.
Yes. Any other questions? Yep, I don't see any on the Facebook Live feed.
Well, thanks, everyone.
Yeah, I want to say thank you, Nancy, for giving us this presentation on this really exciting project in the community. I urge everyone to come out this Saturday for Earth Day. The League will be there registering voters, providing nonpartisan election information. Little reminder to everyone that early voting starts next Monday, April 25th. And I see we do have a question in the chat. Elizabeth has a question. Elizabeth?
I was curious about the impervious ground covers, that picture of the parking lot, the green one. And I'm assuming you'll probably do other examples in other places so that people can get an idea, maybe take some ideas home with them. But what
Right.
is that green stuff?
It was a grass.
A real grass?
Yeah, but I've also heard like that's probably that's probably not a good option for Texas, right? But frog fruit, I've heard frog fruit goes really can stand up to that. Here you'll probably see more like a pea gravel in those little channel, little construction, what would you call those? Little circular grids that you place in the ground. They have even made an impervious concrete, and we've demonstrated that on our sidewalk along Lakeview. You got to keep it clean. That's another thing with the impervious covers. But yeah, that is one of the things we look to do is just demonstrate a couple of options, monitor them, see how they're doing. What can we share with people as far as how are they holding up, and how do they perform in different circumstances.
The thing that excites me the most about Headwaters is the education value, and it's not the kind of education where you have to come sit down in a chair and pay attention and listen, but you can walk around and learn so much. It's just a living classroom, and I'm very excited about it being available to the community to have oh, I don't know, maybe groups meetings. They could
Yes.
Yeah.
other groups in the
Yes.
community could come have their meetings there. I'm looking forward to that. And I thank you so much for all the good work you've done. I know
Thank
you're putting
you.
your heart and soul into this,
Mhm.
and it shows. Bravo.
Thank you.
Yes.
So all of you on this call, we're all doing that in our own way. So thank you all for what you're doing too. And we are open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and 8 to 3 on Saturdays. So if people want to come out, we're open now. We just don't have conditioned space or really accessible restrooms, but we do have restrooms.
Any other questions before we stop the recording? Okay, as I said, I hope everyone will come out this Saturday for the Earth Day Festival. And remember to vote in the May 7th local elections. Those local elections can really have an impact on what happens in your community. And with that, we will stop the recording.